Hello, so we're going to discuss manipulating images. Once you have them in your rhombus cutter, you start laying out your design, and let's try to manipulate them as you see in the banner image here with the halftones, or taking a photographic image and creating it into a flat shape of color. So let's uh, delve into this, and we actually have a file here that we're going to use in addition to the rhombus cutter. Um, and so we're going to scroll down under the identity tessellation mask module, and there's a color change document. So I'm going to click on that. It's going to download it, open it up into Photoshop, and we'll talk about that for a little bit, and then we will move into the rhombus cutter. I'm going to minimize that. There it is. Beautiful brain we have here we're looking at. Um, and so we will start here, and then I'm going to move the brain over into the rhombus cutter, and I want to use it in the rhombus cutter because that's going to simulate what you will need to do. And then you could actually follow along and do it with this file as well if you'd like. But let's just look at this, the different options that I'm showing you on how you can manipulate this photographic image. So the top layer here in your layers palette is RGB file. This is once you import your images, this is what it's going to look like if it's photographic. So um, we're going to start with here because the majority of your sources are probably photographic. So we'll start here, and then we will move into, well, what are the different options for manipulating the file um, once you have them in your rhombus cutter, and then also how will you manipulate the file to easily change the color to fill the criteria of the color system that you're going to choose. And so one of these options is a duotone. And so here you look at it and it's very similar photographically, continuous tone. However, it's monochromatic, right? And so duotone is the actual file name in Photoshop, but we know it as a monochromatic color system here. So I'll show you how to do that. And then we're gonna progressively get less photographic as we move through these files. The next one is posterize. And so I have posterize 9 because the 9 is telling me how many levels there are. And this one's a little bit more difficult to see at this scale. But once you zoom in, you can start seeing that what the posterization does is it reduces the photographic continuous tones that we see here in the duotone into flat color shapes. And then the color shapes um, essentially become a value system that constructs the three-dimensional quality. And so when you zoom in, you can see it's very subtle, but it's there. So let me go back to the screen. Next, we're going to go to halftone. And so you get a value system that renders the photographic image into a flat texture, dots here in this instance, and but it retains some of the three-dimensional qualities. And then it gets more abstract and simplified depending on the the number of dots within this in, within the lines that you utilize. And so I'll show you how to manipulate this so you can create different halftone patterns. We don't have to use dots. You can use different shapes as well. We'll cover that. And then lastly is the flat shape. Maybe you want to use the brain shape just as a very simple flat shape filled with color. You don't want any of the details, textures, values um, inherent into that shape. You could also utilize that flat shape in combination with one of the other uh, manipulations. So here you see the flat shape being used with the halftone to create sort of a more analogous system here for that photographic image, but it's being used in two flat shapes. So different ways to manipulate this. But we're going to start here, and we're going to move on into the rhombus cutter.